Yo, what is up, everybody? Popo here, bringing you guys a new video, and today we're going to be updating my Regulation H tier list. Let's go. Welcome, everybody, and today I'm going to be revising my Regulation H tier list. I've played a lot more games, mostly on stream, and if you're not over on the streams, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon, and it will tell you when I go live. We're doing Wednesdays through Tuesdays through Thursdays. So come and hang out. We're just doing some Regulation H, do rental teams, viewer battles, whatever you like. Just chilling, talking about Pokemon. But let's get into this. So I'm going to do this a little bit different. This is my tier list that I put out a couple of weeks ago when the format first was announced. And it was kind of just my initial thoughts of what I thought would be good. And some of it has actually turned out to be very, very true. And I think that is very good, but some of it is not. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to move things around. We're going to change this tier list. Instead of going through each Pokemon, we're just going to go through and do what the changes are. So we're going to start, of course, in this gigantic D tier. There are a couple of Pokemon in here that do need to be moved. Number one is going to actually be Charizard. We can move Charizard up a tier. This thing actually does a lot of damage and puts a lot of pressure on, but Fire type is a really hard type for you to fit into your team if you're not already, having a Fire type that could do something similar or put a lot of pressure on, as there are just better ones overall. So Charizard kind of loses a little bit of points that way. But if you like Charizard, it's a great option. It's also immune to ground attacks, which could be relevant on certain teams. And yeah, but if you get hit by one Rock Slide, it's Jover. Next, so we can kind of skip through a lot of these Pokemon here, as most of them don't really do anything. And we're going to look for a very specific Mon that has been making kind of a name for itself, despite the fact that it's been trash for so long. And that's going to be Yanma. And I think Yanma is actually probably near the top over here of C tier. This is still a Pokemon that is lacking a little bit. Though, if it continues to do well, like I think it might be able to, it could even be a B tier Pokemon. This is a Pokemon that gets Hypnosis, is very fast, has Speed Boost, gets a move Struggle Bug, which lowers both of your opponent's special attacks. So it does kind of a few things, and Tailwind too, I almost forgot to mention. So this is a pretty good Pokemon. It's something that's never really seen play in VGC, and it's interesting to actually see it being played. And I hope that it continues to get better, because I really like bug Pokemon, and they're always trash. And let's just look through, is there any other Pokemon here? We've seen Altaria do really well at the World Championships, but that is not going to move up on the list. I know some people have been using Lucario, but I don't think it's that good. I think it's just kind of a gimmicky Pokemon. Toxicroak, I think we can actually move Toxicroak up. I don't think it's actually that good, but it also can do some stuff, and I've seen a couple of people using it. Hisuian Samurott, this is going to be another Pokemon that's probably around here. It's actually really good and outputs a lot of damage, and with Fairy types being a lot less prevalent, this Pokemon has been able to do a few things. Rotom Lawn we've seen being used recently. I still think it's probably bottom of C tier, because I think the other Rotom forms are just a little bit better. We've seen Hisuian Braviary as well. I don't know if I put this here. Here's a Pokemon I got completely wrong, by the way. This is actually a B tier Pokemon. I'll put it about here. The Hisuian Decidueye is just really, really strong. It can hit ghost types. It's immune to Intimidate, which is really, really good. So, yeah, it's good against Goldango, which is one of the main Pokemon in the format at the moment. And it can hit it, despite it being ghost, for super effective with the fighting move. And that's always pretty cool. So, anytime you could do something like that. Regular Decidueye, not so good. A Vivillon, this is another one I think I got wrong. I think this is a low B tier Pokemon. I don't think enough people are using it at the moment. But this is a Pokemon that uses Sleep Powder. It gets Tailwind, Pollen Puff. It can do quite a few things and has seen play in the past, just not at the highest frequency, and therefore hasn't got all of the results, but recently has been doing pretty well in some of these limitless tours. So don't sleep on Vivillon for sure. I think it could be a B tier Pokemon. Klefki is another one that has kind of come out of nowhere. I'll put it around here. This is also another really good Pokemon. You can set up screens and stuff. Did really well at the World Championships too, which was a big surprise. Talk about big surprises. This guy. Okay, it might have just been the one gimmick team I faced, but this thing is a B tier Pokemon. Maybe not. Maybe not. It's probably around here too. I faced this really interesting team that utilized this with Fighting Terra, as well as a transformed Smeargle with Choice Scarf that allowed you to get a Ghost and a Fighting attack off with Revelation Dance on the same turn. Just be able to hit everything in the game for at least neutral, essentially. And that was really, really cool. And yeah, so I don't think you could sleep on it just for that one gimmick, because it can just destroy certain teams. Going through, we've seen some usage from some of these. I'm gonna put Serena into C tier now, because I think it is pretty good, and I think I way underrated it, though I don't think it's, you know, the best. Yeah, for the most part, most of these aren't super good, so I think that is good. There's a case for some of these Pokemon to move them up to C tier. I just don't think they really have the results right now to move up there. Now, talking into C tier, I'm going to move Mamoswine. I think Mamoswine is probably top of B tier. I think this is also an underutilized Pokemon, and I think that it is very strong. Just maybe as strong as Ursaluna, but you don't have to use it in Trick Room. And yeah, I think people need to start looking into it. I put Sneasler C. I think Sneasler is actually A tier. This Pokemon puts a lot of pressure on a lot of the meta Pokemon right now. You can do a couple of things with it. On Burden is super strong, so that gives you a huge advantage too. This is probably around here, honestly. It's a fighting type, which is hard to come by. There's only a couple of good ones, and also a poison type, which puts pressure on the things that are good against fighting types. So it could do quite a few things, and it's a really good Pokemon. And Dire Claw is just kind of not fun to play against, because you could just lose. I lost the game because he got paralysis on one of my Pokemon and then put my other one to sleep, and there was just literally nothing I could do. But I think this is definitely an A tier Pokemon. This is a Pokemon definitely moving up in the list. I think Tinkaton is actually better than this. It's probably bottom of B tier. I think it's pretty strong. Fake Out is really good, and it's one of the few fairy types, though its attack stat is not super good. The rest of what it does is very good. So I think it's there. Snorlax, I'm also going to move to bottom of B tier. This is a really good option. You just have to build the team around using the Snorlax, which could be kind of hard. There's a lot of Trick Room countering going on at the moment, so you got to be careful for that. So far, I think this is all pretty good. Hisuian Braviary is probably mid B tier now. This Pokemon is very good and very underrated too. You do have to Terrasilize to use the Expanding Force, but it does put out a lot of damage with Hurricane and such, so you got to be careful for those too. We've seen a few of these Pokemon do pretty well. Gallade's another one. This is probably close to an A tier. I'll put it up here. Another fighting type, but also gives you that Psychic typing too. So that's pretty good. I think some of these could move down. So like the Golem, I don't think is super good. I don't think this is super good. Scizor really hasn't shown up either. This hasn't shown up at all. I still think Slowking's good. Actually, did I put the other Slowking down here? I don't know where I put the other Slowking, but he's definitely the best one. I just don't know where he is from doing it this way. But yeah, I think Slowking is better than even this one. It has performed pretty well. I think overall this tier is pretty good, except for Pelipper, which Pelipper is going to be the highest of A tier. I don't think it is an S tier Pokemon. I think it has a lot of counters. It's just the Pokemon it supports are really, really strong, and it makes it look a lot better than it actually is. So yeah, I think C tier is pretty clean. Oh, here he is. Here he is. He's up here. He's around the same as Farigiraf. I think Farigiraf is still good. It's just its relevance has gone down slightly. All right. So going into the B tier, I think it's pretty clean at the top here. I think these are all pretty relevant Pokemon to be in B tier. You know, you got the Spam stuff, which, you know, is pretty good, but it's easily countered by some teams. So therefore, I don't really feel like it's an A. It's a 2 Pokemon job, so it makes it a little bit harder. Same with the Sun setting. Sylveon's okay. Primarina, though, Primarina is definitely an A tier Pokemon. I'm gonna put it here. I think it's probably the best fairy type, if not the best fairy type, and it's probably the best water type. So yeah, it goes there. I know I said best water type and put this here, but yeah, I think the flying type gives it a little bit of advantage, and it's more useful overall. Sableye, I think Sableye is actually an A tier Pokemon. This thing can do a lot of things. Gravity is really big right now, and yeah, I think he's very, very good, and there's so many different sets that he can fit on so many different teams that I think he's there. I think this is A tier as well. This is probably the best fire Pokemon, potentially. It just outputs so much damage with the eruption that it's really hard to stop. Even with rain up in water Pokemon, it still does massive amounts of damage. It can also use Shadow Ball, which is really, really strong. Nothing can resist both of those, except I think there's one Pokemon, right? Houndoom, but that's not really that's not really out there. So Goodra, I'm gonna move Goodra up. I think Goodra's super, super underutilized. Other than that, I think these are all pretty good. I think maybe Dragonite can probably move up into A tier. I think it's really strong Pokemon. Does a lot of damage. It's very good. I put this on B tier before I used it, and I really, really think this is a B tier Pokemon. Super underexplored. But I think these are all looking pretty good. Basiligian up into A tier, of course. We'll put them right next to the Typhlosion, just because they both need the weather, really, and they're able to do a lot with that weather. Hariyama's probably going to move down. This Pokemon really hasn't performed well. I don't think it's that great. It just really, really hasn't hit the heights I thought. Volcarona could probably move up. I don't think it's past the B tier, but I think it's definitely higher B tier than that. King Gambit, same thing, is probably the top of B tier, almost an A tier. It's very, very strong. We see Mousehold doing the same thing. I'm gonna put Mousehold A, because not only does it enable Annihilate, but it also has been going for Population Bomb recently, so it does have a couple of variations. Cretitan, I think, is still super underexplored, but I'm going to drop it down to C tier, as I think it has lost a lot of that viability. This thing is just going all the way down to D tier. It just doesn't seem as strong. Shiftry just seems a lot better because of knockoff, probably, but there's just better options than that anyways. I still think Raichu, despite not getting any results, is still pretty good, so I'm going to keep him up here. Clefable's better than Clefairy, which is weird, though I do think Clefairy is still good, especially if you put it with the Snorlax. Gengar has been pretty decent. Outputs a lot of damage. Yeah, this seems about right. I think Mimikyu is still super underexplored too. I'm gonna be. Is he higher? He's probably around here too. I think the other Weezing, it might be C tier. I think having the fairy typing is very, very good. So I think it might have the advantage now. So yeah, I think that is going to be my B tier. Going into A tier, we're probably gonna move this down to B. It's been okay, but it really hasn't done what Primarina has been doing, and Primarina is really showing what it should be. Annihilate is going to be probably the first Pokemon on the A tier, as Goldango actually is going to go up into S tier. I'm going to re-rank S tier when I get there, but I think it's one of the best Pokemon in the format. I knew it was going to be good, but it's just been very, very strong. It's been winning a lot of events, or at least being the #1 used Pokemon in some of these events. Like, it's been doing a ton. Porygon 2, he has dropped down. I don't think he's the best Trick Room setter anymore. I thought he was going to be a lot better than he is, but he just feels kind of weak in this format. Corviknight I think is still really, really good, but yeah, I'm going to put it with the Goodra. I think it's slightly better than the Goodra overall because of that ground resistance or negation, but overall, I think it's on a similar tier. We got Dragapult, and Dragapult's still really good. You thought I was going to change him. As you can see, we got like 3 ghosts here that are really good. Talonflame, I believe, is still up here. Water Tauros, I also believe. Muck is probably bottom of C tier. I thought this was going to be more prevalent. It has not been. Smeargle is probably around here. It can do quite a few things, as we already know, but it does just lack that oomph sometimes, and, you know, has all my friends are KO'd syndrome, so that really hurts it. But I think that's a really good A tier. A lot of these Pokemon are pretty common in cores, or they're pretty common for strategies that are current right now and are actually really, really good. Going up to S tier, I think Garchomp is actually probably bottom of A tier, slipping into B tier. He hasn't really performed as well as I thought he would. Just doesn't really have the damage output it used to have, and just gets KO'd by a lot of Pokemon. My next tier list, this thing could probably be bottom of B tier even. Incineroar, I think Incineroar is still good, but I'm going to put it at top of A tier because I think it has lost a little bit. There's just a lot of Pokemon that are very, very good against it, like Archaludon is one example of that, and there's a couple of Pokemon that don't even get hit by it via the Intimidate or, you know, Parting Shots, so it just really, really has a hard time fitting in at the moment. Rillaboom is still an S tier Pokemon. This Pokemon is very good, especially with rain everywhere. This Pokemon is really putting on a lot of pressure onto those rain teams, and being very successful doing so. Amoonguss. Now, this surprised me, but I think Amoonguss is like mid B tier, like probably around here, right? It's probably better than these two. It just really hasn't had the impact. We've been seeing a lot more of these, you know, sleep powder Pokemon and stuff like that are just faster and able to do more because the meta is so slow that they're able to take advantage of it a little bit more, rather than Amoonguss, who's just kind of sitting there not able to put out any pressure. It's good against the rain teams, but it just doesn't feel super, super strong. And I think it's lost a little bit of its viability, though it's still a really good Pokemon and has potential to still win stuff like Baltimore. So don't sleep on it, that's for sure. But yeah, just be ready for Sleep Powder in general, and you'll be ready for Amoonguss kind of thing. Palafin. I still think Palafin could win Baltimore, but right now, I think it's probably the top of B tier. Basiligian is getting used more and has shown to be stronger, especially with that Last Respects. You're able to just output a lot of damage at the end game. If you save the rain especially, you're outputting a ton of damage with Choice Band, stuff like that. There's so much setup when it comes to Palafin that it can be hard to use sometimes. Torkoal, I think Torkoal's still good, but I'm going to put it at the bottom of A tier. It has lost a little bit of its viability. There's a lot of rain out there. It is a good Pokemon into the rain teams if you set it up properly. And Lilycolt is very, very strong. So I do think it's still a really, really good Pokemon. I just think Typhlosion is a little faster. Well, it's a lot faster. And therefore, it gives it a bit more viability. Next, Hydreigon. I think Hydreigon still has the ability to be a S tier Pokemon. This Pokemon is very, very strong. I just think that people have to figure out the right team for it, and maybe that hasn't happened yet. There's just so many things. If we look back all the way to Regulation A, this Pokemon was absolutely dominant, and I think it has a similar opportunity now. Dark Pulse is just so strong. Draco Meteor is so strong, making it so it always crits is so strong. You can make it like auto crit without having to waste your item, though it takes 2 moves to do so. You can also just increase its crit chance without having an item or a move that actually does it, just by having a dragon cheer on something else. And there's a couple of non-dragons that get it, so you can pair it with something. And one Pokemon that you can pair it with might be a grass type Pokemon that can help him out. So I think it still has a really good chance of being good. Archludon is the #1 Pokemon in my opinion. This Pokemon is so strong, you have to have a counter for it on your team. If you don't, this Pokemon's just gonna roll you. There's not much to say about it. I mean, you hit it, it now gets a move that's stronger. If you don't hit it, it's just gonna get itself stronger. It's very hard to balance in between those two, and it's very hard to one-shot this Pokemon. Ursaluna Blood Moon is probably one of the only Pokemon that can do it. And, yeah. Well, so where is Ursaluna Blood Moon? As a matter of fact. Where has Ursaluna Blood Moon? He wasn't even on this list, was he? Because I definitely would have put him way up there. Yeah. He wasn't on it. Just regular Ursaluna's here. You know what? I didn't even think about that when I did this tier list the last time. But let's pretend this is Blood Moon Ursaluna. He's number 2. Blood Moon Ursaluna is number 2. But yeah, I guess he's just not on this list because there's no way I put him in D tier, and he would be down here anyway. Yeah, he's just not on this list because yeah, he's not in C tier. He's not in B tier. I would have put him in A tier, but anyway, beside the point, he would be in S tier, but he is not here. Next, we have Dondozo. I think Dondozo is still really, really good. You have to have something to deal with it, haze or something like that. And yeah, any Pokemon that you have to have something for is at least going to be an A tier because you have to have Follow Me to help with Annihilate. You have to have, you know, Haze or Clear Smog to deal with Dondozo. But more than anything, you have to have a Pokemon that can one-shot or two-shot the Archludon. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Because I can knock out Annihilate with anything, right? I can knock out Dondozo with anything. As long as I can set up that one counter, that one turn, or those 2 turns, I can kind of deal with these Pokemon. But with this Archludon, you need to have a Pokemon specifically to knock this Pokemon out. And it's really hard to build around a team like that where you're like, okay, well, I really need, you know, this Gallade because without Gallade, I can't beat the Archludon matchup. And this thing just gets pretty much one shot by Pelipper. So now you have to make sure you have something against Pelipper too. So it's like, it's a really strong core and you have to have something. So that's why I think it's the S tier Pokemon. Same with Goldango. Goldango could just set up and just destroy. Rillaboom's really helping set up a lot of your Pokemon, get rid of that psychic terrain. And then Hydreigon is just very, very strong. And Ursaluna Blood Moon just outputs the most damage out of any Pokemon here. Can hit ghost types. Its typing is just really, really good into all these Pokemon. So it just does so much. So just pretend he's here. This is Blood Moon. I didn't notice that he wasn't on this list. Once again, I did not make this list. So if any Pokemon are missing, do not blame me. But anyways, guys, that is my updated tier list. I plan on doing another one of these before Baltimore, potentially. And then we'll go over kind of what Baltimore is going to look like. But if you guys aren't subscribed, make sure you guys do so. If you liked the video, make sure you thumbs it up. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, everybody.